to accept what we've got, because we are short of staff and staff is hard to get, and probably one of the reasons I can't find accommodation. But anyway, it's for the future, that one.
Thank you, Councillor B. Councillor Hopkins, would you like right away? Or
No, thank you.
Yeah. Put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you all. 9.3.4 financial sustainability recommendation.
I would like to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Will I have a seconder? Councillor Williamson. Councillor Hopkins, would you like to talk for your recommendation?
Yes, I would. Firstly, thank you so much to the staff for taking the time to prepare this report and update. We spent a lot of time and money last year commissioning the financial sustainability review and desktop audit, and a lot of key findings came out of that as a result. And I think it's really important that we don't lose sight of them. I mean, obviously one of them was the SRV, which has been done. The majority of the other recommendations were efficiency improvements and gains that that as a council we can look at moving forward. So I'm really pleased to see that whilst some of the items haven't yet gotten underway for a number of reasons, a lot of the actions in that were in the recommendation from the sustainability review are actually underway and on track. So I look forward to seeing continuation of this and as a result improving the financial sustainability of our council. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Do I have someone speaking against this recommendation? No. I then put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 9.4.1, grant invitation and being to begin construction of the Monaro Rail Trail at Bombala. Do I have a councillor that would like to? Councillor Summers.
I'd like to move the recommendation as written in the paper with an additional clause, which could go in as B part 2 or as F, whatever's deemed suitable. And that recommendation being that the removed rails be retained for potential repurposing for a future rail project. And if I have a seconder, I'd like to speak to the motion, please.
Councillor Johnson seconds that. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll just finish writing before we talk, if that's okay, Councillor Summers. I'll just finish writing up. Well, just get Grace to finish writing what's there.
Righty.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Nowhere in the resolution does it say that the trails will be removed.
Yeah.
Does it? Well,
There's part B, the end clause necessitating the removal of the rails.
okay, thank you.
Okay, Brian? Yeah. Councillor Summers, would you like to talk for your recommendation?
Thank you, Councillor.
Do we have a seconder?
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Johnson. Oh, sorry.
Look, this has been somewhat of a vexed issue because of the competing interests in the rail corridor, and I'm hoping that this amendment to retain the steel goes some way to alleviating the concerns of those who have an interest in re-invoking the historic railway capacity. And I think we need to clarify that the grant is for the railhead at Bombala for the purpose of rejuvenating Bombala, and it really needs it. And I believe that if we do work together, as all have pledged to do so today, that grant will be spent in a way which does accommodate everyone's interest. Now, I understand that 3.5 kilometres of track, if the funding stretches that far, may well be removed. But if the steel is retained and the larger grant is obtained down the track, and the time in between will allow all three parties to come up with a strategy which incorporates all of their goals. Now, that may be idealistic, but I don't think it would hurt to try. And if we have the steel still on board, that does alleviate one of the concerns that the rail proponents do have, in that the steel will be trashed. So I'm hoping that this will be a compromise, if you like, to take a step forward for Bombala. Bombala will benefit, I believe, from this, and this initiative in a sort of a discrete $1 million project will allow council and the community to make some assessment of what the future might look like. We will be able to find out, for example, how much it costs to maintain 3.5 kilometres of rail trail and how much to lay 3.5 kilometres of rail trail without it being such a burden on or such an intervention that the rail proponents can't at some stage down the track, pardon the pun, get together and work something out. So I'm recommending this this recommendation to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. Do I have someone talking against the recommendation that's on the board?
No.
Talk
I'd
yes.
like to talk against it if I can talk.
Councillor Williamson, yes. Go.
And to propose or foreshadow a alternate motion should this one be lost. And the foreshadowed motion would be the same as part A above, but part B to be to prepare and submit an application on the basis that of a agreed approach to establishing the trial out of a working group forming interested parties in the rail corridor. So I feel we very definitely need to take up the offer that was made here today by the various parties to work together to see if we could achieve the best outcome. So I'd like to foreshadow that as a motion.
We want to write the motion down first so we know what the foreshadow is. So part A, so keep part A.
And so keep part A and put a revised part B, and then all the rest can come later.
So what's your?
So part B, can you just repeat what part B would be, Councillor Williamson?
If you go up, so prepare and submit an application for a or prepare and submit an application based on the agreed approach arising from a working group comprising all of those interested parties.
And what time frame have you got set on that? What time frame would you have set on your motion?
So frame.
We've got to have a time, but that I would imagine a time.
I'm not changing the
We can't
time.
move to go into committee.
Oh, okay,
No.
yeah,
Do I have a seconder to move into committee?
yeah.
Councillor Frolick. All those in favour to move into committee? Sorry, hands up, I can't. Thank you. Stewart, Higgins, Frolick, Williamson, Hopkins, Beer and myself, and against Summers, Johnson and Davis. We're moving to committee. We're in committee.
Yeah,
Moving to committee, Mr. Chairman, I would have thought the best thing would be for us to, rather than change the resolution, would be to put another point down the bottom that we encourage the two groups to start to talk to each other and come to some solution within some time frame. Or something along those lines.
And I think that's
The
better
issue
because
I
the
have
onus
with
should
that-
be on them,
The
sorry.
issue I have with that is it's being tried. So how long are we going to keep doing it and
That's what I
delaying
said,
it?
with the time limit. But after hearing the two speakers, we could try again, surely.
Will the council lead the initiative and invite all three groups to a meeting?
Haven't we already done that?
We've done
Yes,
that.
several times.
Nothing's worked.
I think that we mustn't lose sight of the fact that this is really about sort of two things. It's about community as a whole, the whole region, but obviously in particular Bombala, and it's about economic development, again, for Bombala, but for the region as a whole. So that's what we're really thinking about. Let's not forget that. So whether it's about MRT versus CMR versus someone else, at the end of the day, we really need to look at the community and we need to look at the economic, I suppose, prosperity of the whole region. So as sort of one of the speakers mentioned earlier, we need to be collaborative. We need to work together on this. I appreciate that conversations have happened, but there are still so many questions that we have unanswered to do with costs, to do with logistics. We're talking about, I appreciate that in the costings to put the rail trail next to the railway line will increase the costs. I get that, I understand that, but we've already got a resolution that if at some point in the future the train would like to reuse the trail, we have committed to having that put back. So if we're going to spend the money taking up the railway line, keeping it and then putting it back again, is it not an option maybe to look at, would it be better off to look at costing this 3.5 kilometres being next to the railway line? And as was also mentioned, the trail plus the bicycle track, the train, sorry, plus the bicycle track, they can coexist and they can be mutually beneficial. So I totally support applying for a grant. Obviously, I think we need to do this, but do we still have some conversations to have in terms of exactly what it looks like? I feel that we're sort of killing off a potential a little bit early.
I'm a bit worried that we're going to keep talking and keep talking and then miss out on everything. That's my concern. There's been a lot of talk.
Well, I think that's where our economic development team comes in, and a decision is made. But if I agree that, I mean, if we're talking solely about the economic development of Bombala specifically, why would you not entertain both options to, hedge your bets, rather than choosing one over the other to find out that it may be the wrong choice in 10 years from now when people don't want to ride bikes anymore, they want to sit on trains. I don't know, but I just think that if the option is there to support both of them side by side, that would be the best option for Bombala and its economic development.
The way the Earth climate's going and our access to resources, I think they're more likely to be riding bikes than going on trains.
I'm struggling with my voice today, but just a few points just to throw in. At 3.5 kilometres, there's not going to be any economic benefit out of that. We're not going to attract lots of people here ride a 3.5 kilometre.
Just the beginning.
There is no future funding at this point in time. The government's just de-invested in our region. They've just ripped $100 million or more out of the sack.
Deferred it.
And that's
Well, it ain't in the budget.
this is
Now,
So just a clarification.
hang on, let me finish, please. There are other things that aren't in the paper that we need to be aware of, and Richard Hopkins, who's here today, sent us all an email on the 12th, including information about the Minister for Transport's statement that she's looking at the feasibility again of putting a port in Eden and putting a train line through to Canberra.
yeah.
So I'm not making it up, it's in your email.
So
Now, I actually briefed the minister prior that when she was the shadow minister as an economist advising people interested in the Port of Eden. I've worked on a number of port redevelopment proposals over the years. She took that very seriously. So she's not, it's not a flippant comment. The department is looking at that again. We, as a council, have previously written to the Premier asking for that to be looked at again as well. And that was in Richard's email to you all as well. There's lots of reasons why ripping the track up now is not a great idea, because it might get ripped up again in the near future. Putting it adjacent to it makes so much more sense.
So can we just have some clarification on the statements just made?
Sure. What would you like me to clarify?
No, I'm going to ask the staff to clarify it because they're just your opinions. And we acknowledge the staff as. So firstly, the $1 million grant was promised by Christy McBain as an election promise in regard to the rail trail. And it was around having a starting point for the rail trail. We all acknowledge that the $1 million is not enough to actually make great inroads, but it is enough to give us a process around methodology, and that includes all the assessments that we need to do or have not undertaken, and it gives us that step up. Also gives an opportunity for all of the players that are engaged to actually be involved. Secondly, the freight train proposal from Eden has had $1 million spent on it, and it came up as not being feasible. And if we're actually looking at from an economic point of view, we have ports in Newcastle, Wollongong and Sydney who are going to be a greater priority of keeping viable in regard to setting up a new port in Eden.
Let me just clarify that.
Please don't interrupt.
This council contributed money towards a review of that study. And then on the basis of the review of the study, wrote to the Premier saying, please come back and reassess the whole thing, because the original study didn't include freight. It was passengers. Now, that's the reason why the Transport Minister is now having a fresh look at it. And she made that statement in June, just a couple of months ago. So council is actually being actively engaged in that process.
So what I'm saying is get another reason to put another obstacle in front of the rail trail. It has had so many obstacles put in front of it, and now we're talking about all that stuff again. And it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're actually correct, Councillor Davis. And I think a gift of $1 million is absolutely we should apply. There's absolutely no question of that. Let's get the money and let's make a start.
Yeah.
Where I have concerns is killing off the opportunity for discussion with other parties. So, for example, I've lost the motion above. Prepare and submit the application, happy days, but not on the basis that the rail trail will be constructed, necessitating the removal of rails. Can we take that out of, for example, could that be removed from the recommendation? And can we not write to the 3 community groups formally informing them of council's decision, but maybe we could, I don't know, have some more meetings or something like that. Let's make a start with the rail trail. I've got no problem at all, and I think that's a really good idea. But let's not kill off other really good economic and tourism opportunities for the region.
Yeah. Look, we must go ahead with this. Now, how we go, but we've got to start this rail trail development off. It's too important for this community. It's all right for you guys up at Cooma or Redbow or wherever. I've seen, and you've seen the presentation by the Chamber of Commerce, of how our community has taken severe economic and social downturns and through a lot of bad decisions by governments mainly, and we've had to wear the brunt of this. We've got a community here that are supportive of trying to get some economic and social development out of this. Now, the rail. Look, if the rail can happen, I think it's a long way off. But our community can't wait for that. Our community needs help. Christy McBain, no politician would have come out and said that they would give $1 million if they were elected, unless she had the vision and the fortitude to say, you're in trouble, we want to try to help you out. So we've got Christy McVeigh that's not involved in our community. She's a local member now. She's seen the situation. She's come out and pledged that as an election commitment. And then we could have the council here today knock that back. What a silly situation that'd be. What a very silly situation would it be. Now, look, we should be passing it if you want to have something in there but we've got to make sure that we're going to keep moving forward with this development. If the trained people can't come up with anything to work with it, we've just still got to move on. We haven't got time. Councillor Williams, I'm just telling you, we haven't got time to wait. Our community's got to move forward. We're here to, and if there's a provision in there for the development of the rail trail for when the trained people get their funding, which with a new fast train and everything, surely these old tracks and that out there wouldn't be right to put a fast train. They'll have to be all reviewed, you'd imagine. It's a major development. Don't let this community down, councillors. We have to proceed with this, and we've got to give the support of our community through the Chamber of Commerce and all the younger people here today. We've got to support them and move on, show the vision, and with the train, if they can get it, there'll be a way forward for them in the corridor. The corridor will be still there, but just move on. We've got to go for it.
I move that we move back into.
There's no debate with you, Mr. Council.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
The stall. Where's the integrity?
We're in a meeting, sorry,
That man
sir.
is not even involved.
Thank you.
I move that we
And
go
I'm
back
sorry,
to council
if you
meeting.
pass for a rail trail, it'll be your head.
Oh,
Move that
I'm
we
not like that.
Thank you.
It's a secret of head.
sorry. Thank you.
It's appropriate
Sorry.
having threats
Thank
in
you.
the council chambers.
I move that we go back into the council meeting.
Second.
Can I just clarify something before we do? I do apologise. Just want to confirm Christy McVein's email to us, letter. It is in support of the rail trail. However, it is in support until you get to the last paragraph, where she has requested that she urges everybody, all parties, to work together.
Yes, they should do.
So I just want to put that in everybody's head that she has supported the rail trail, but then at the end of it, she has urged us to work together with all parties
And we'll in those.
to move forward.
No, that there's nothing to suggest we're not going to.
Yeah.
We move out.
We're not-
Let's move back into.
Yes, I have got Councillor
Oh, sorry.
Davis.
Three moves that we go back into.
Do I have a second? Sorry, did I have a second to move out?
Second it?
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. All those in favour to move back into the meeting? Unanimous. Thank you. We're back into council, and we are now talking about the motion that Councillor Summers has moved.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, if I may.
Okay,
The amendment is purely point A, that council accept the invitation from federal government to apply for $1 million and that B, C, D and E be deleted.
And that.
Oh, and F from that as
Oh.
well.
sorry, before you delete that, I need
Yeah, no, that has to be seconded and spoken on first.
So say that again.
All we're doing, as councillor Stewart has mentioned, we just need to move forward. We need to apply for the grant. So let's apply for the grant. That's all we're doing. We're not designing the trail. We're not killing off other groups. Let's apply for the grant.
But isn't that B?
Hey,
Submit the
accept the
application.
application to apply for the grant. Or accept the application, maybe we can do and apply for the grant.
Staff any parameters.
I don't think we need to water it down any further. Either vote for it or don't. Once it gets to my turn, I'd like to speak for the motion.
I'll second your
Do
amendment.
I have a
Need a
second? Do I have a seconder for the Councillor Hopkins' amendment?
Doesn't the person who
No,
moved it
she's
Councillor Frog.
have to accept it?
no.
Amendment gets up at.
So now we have to talk about the. Oh, sorry. There you go.
That answering the question, that can happen informally if you agree, but there is a formal process.
I see. I
don't
don't
agree.
agree. Got it. Yep.
Now we have to talk on the amendment. first. So you have a seconder, so now you can talk on your motion.
Okay, I'm not going to, we've been going around in circles, so I'm not going to rehash it too much, but the point I really want to make is that this is a very big decision. We've got very passionate groups involved. The key point is let's help Bombala, let's get the $1 million grant. So let's not argue about whether the trails come up or down, or we do 3 kilometres or 5 kilometres. Let's just apply for the grant.
On what basis?
Yes. What do you tell the staff to do?
To commit to work on the for the construction of the rail trail at Bombala. Do we need to work out?
Why are we putting in more roadblocks in front of our own feet?
Staff will then come back and
Does the
say,
learning have to come back and do this?
Well, I'm happy to take advice on to whether that would not be, whether it would or would not be valid.
Can I seek a point of clarification?
Yes.
The grant that is being offered to us to apply for, is that that's something to do with the economic stimulus for Bombala? Or is it, do we know what the grant is that we are being invited to apply for? Because I appreciate that the funding has all changed as far as federal and state and election commitment.
So my understanding, I can be corrected if I'm wrong, or do you want to answer that question?
Oh, well,
You can answer the question.
I'm sure you would be answering the same. During the course of the federal election, our local member and Christian McBain made an offer of $1 million for the construction of the rail trail, and it can only be used for the construction of the rail trail. She's made that clear subsequent to the difference between perhaps previous years and currently. Both the state and federal government are asking us to apply for the election promises, because that's putting some rigor around this is what's actually going to happen around the grant. And that's why I believe we know what it's not just a letter saying, please give us the $1 million. It's about, this is what we're going to do with it. And in the absence of any direction about what we're going to do with it,
right?
I haven't seen the application form myself. I will try and reach Mr. Adams and see if he can advise me. But my understanding is that we would need to put something in. This is what we're going to do with the $1 million.
Sure.
You could start and develop the rail trail.
Sorry, I'll let you.
All right, do I have a speaker against Councillor Hopkins's recommendation? But I'm a bit confused with it.
Yes.
Hang on. Councillor Higgins, would you like to speak against the motion?
Amendment.
Amendment, sorry, the amendment.
Yes, I'm speaking
Sorry.
against the amendment because I think the amendment was fairly clear and fairly helpful, and as we've heard, is going to direct the staff in how to write the application so we could actually get the $1 million. We need to start helping ourselves and not putting roadblocks in front of ourselves on purpose. It's pretty clear what we're trying to do. I think there are conversations have happened and, you know, we're at a point where we just need to make the decision. I don't think taking the detail out of the recommendation is helpful. Speaking for the motion. No, I'm speaking against the amendment. So taking the detail out is the amendment, and I don't think that's helpful going forward. And I think it's just going to make another problem for us to deal with on another day. We might as well just deal with it now.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Do I have someone talking for the amendment? Councillor Froelich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I speak for the amendment. I think that by removing the other items in the motion says that we can move forward with applying for this grant, but kind of provides the last opportunity for us to try and get these two objectives to align, i.e. the railway and the rail trail. Obviously with the original motion, it will remove the railway from being an option. And yeah, I would much prefer to see both of them.
Thank you, Councillor Foley. Do I have someone speaking for the, against the amendment?
I'm going to speak against the amendment. We need to be really clear about what we're actually applying for, and that will be the expectation within the grant application. I totally support the last paragraph of Christie's letter around the fact that she would like to see all three groups work together. What I can say is that on the 15th of September, the Bombala Rail Trail group actually sent an email letter to the Friends of Rail Trail, actually inviting them to have a discussion about how to work together and how they could all benefit from this $1 million. To my understanding, there's been no response or acknowledgement in regard to that email. We undertook 4 workshops with SnowyMonaro Rail last year in 2022 to look at a way forward, and we came to a stalemate. And we were very conciliatory, we were very understanding, we accepted all of the delays in regard to the workshops. But to date, I haven't seen a business plan in regard to SnowyMonaro Rail. The best information that we got was that it was a concept, and that SnowyMonaro Rail will get to Bombala in around 2032, probably later. I fully acknowledge that SnowyMonaro Rail have done a fantastic job on the Cooma precinct. However, running a tourist train 100 kilometres is an enormous feat, and there are many, many obstacles in the way. Bombala needs an economic boost, and we need to have the best chance for this $1 million grant to actually get up and be supported. And also it gives Christie an opportunity to move forward in assisting us with the next grant to actually develop a greater length of the rail trail. And we are going around in circles and creating more roadblocks for ourselves. And it's so frustrating. This has been a talk fest for more than 8 years. We need to get over it and move forward.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was asked a question about the application. I've just been emailed the application form. It's 28 pages long. So they're asking for a lot of information about the grant, including project details, project location, project details, project outcome, and so forth. So they are expecting a level of detail. That is perhaps a bit more than suggested in the amendment.
There isn't a government department that's going to part with $1 million without seeing the detail.
Right. Thank you, CEO. Do I have someone talking for this amendment?
I'll speak for it. I think we saw today goodwill from the 2 other proponents who used the corridor. They spoke about things that they could do in their own work plan to provide stimulus down here, and their goodwill to working with council to help construct the rail trail, and indeed construct more than 3.5 kilometres of rail trail. It seems to me that if we're going to get any immediate economic boost out of an investment in the rail corridor, it needs to go beyond 3.5 kilometres. And as we talked about today, and I've been out there and had a look today at the area, constructing a trail adjacent to the rail line, I think will be much easier. And with the goodwill of these other organisations and their volunteer workers, I think we could probably go far further than the 3.5 and maybe actually generate some economic benefit locally whilst using that as an exemplar to try and get that additional funding. So I don't think anyone's saying don't develop, don't utilise it. I don't know how we're going to explain it to OLG, but we're going to incur another $35,000 cost, operating cost. But that aside, I think everyone thinks getting the grant and spending it's the right thing to do. But surely we have to get our heads together and work out how to bring the best stimulus to this community as quickly as possible. Now, there are many rail trails around the world and in Australia where the trail is built next to the rail line. And you know, they talked about Puffingilly and Victoria here, but you know, I sent councillors a list the other day that I was able to find, as well as, you know, best practice material out of the US of constructing the trail next to the line. It's very commonly done. And with the goodwill we saw on display today, and we're at crunch time for everyone, right? So their ability to ignore each other is coming to an end. But I think we'd be silly not to avail the community of what we can to make it a more vibrant initial investment. Otherwise, we'll end up with a $3.5 million bit of trail that, you know, doesn't add any economic value, and that ain't going to look good in the next business case, is it?
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Would anyone like to talk for the recommendation? Amendment, sorry. Councillor Hopkins, would you like to have a right to reply?
No,
Let's
we need to put the
someone's
motion.
asked for it to be put.
Have a motion put. Do I have all those in favour to put the motion?
We put in the motion.
Councillor Summers.
What do we put in the motion?
The amendment to be put.
Councillor Hopkins is finished and it's moot.
Yeah, it's going to move it anyway, but I don't really want to do two ones. Do you want to withdraw it? Thank you.
Right.
All right. All those in favour
What's
of the amendment motion that is currently on the board. Councillor Foley, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Hopkins. All those against the motion that is on the board. Stewart, Summers, Higgins, Johnson, Davis, Beer, and Hannah. Whew. Thank you. All right, we're going back to Councillor Summers' motion now.
Move the motion. Original motion.
The original one.
I actually don't know what to do now. We're speaking for. Okay, sorry, I've just had so much, haven't you? I apologise. Councillor Higgins, would you like to talk on the motion?
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry.
I am going to support this motion because, as we've heard, we've been talking and talking and talking and talking, and we could talk ourselves out of anything very, very soon. We are missing opportunities because all the while that there is doubt, we're not going to be attracting any government funding for any of the things. We're all councillors. We get around to a lot of areas. One thing I have noticed, obviously not being a bike rider myself, I come across people in coffee shops around the place who are travelling back home, travelling through from other bike trails. They take their holidays, they travel regionally. There is nothing here for them. We are missing out on these opportunities. People who bought bikes to go on a trail in Victoria, people who, ultimately this market exists, and it's very, very visible. and we are missing out. If we don't pass this motion, what is that saying for what we are doing for our community and its economic vibrancy, particularly for Bombala? We've heard from the Bombala community itself. Some of the people are in the room today. They made a lovely video. Like, that's the essence of democracy. The people of this area are asking us to do this for them. So that is why I'm quite happy and very comfortable to support this motion. I am unconcerned that we will end up with just 3.5 kilometres of rail trail. I think if we can get this done and learn from it, we are going to be in a fantastic position to go forward. And ultimately, we've seen all the proposals. The idea is to link Bombala right through the region and up to Queanbeyan and Canberra, which, as we know, they're all mad keen bike riders up there. So I think this is a win-win. I think the balance is pretty good. We've still got the heritage rail existing in the area in these precincts, which will also benefit the area. I love it.
Well done.
Thank you, councillor Higgins. Do you have someone speaking against the recommendation that's on the board that has not spoken? Are we starting again?
No, you keep going.
Well, I did foreshadow a motion,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
You have.
So I want to speak for the recommendation.
I was going to speak against them, however.
I'll go to you next.
Hasn't Councillor Williamson already spoken against?
Not on this
No,
one.
that was on the
That
amendment.
was on the amendment.
No,
That's the amendment.
That was the amendment. We're starting.
I'll change it again and say I ask that the motion be put.
Well, I think I actually asked to speak for the recommendation.
I've just had a motion.
I've moved this
I've also
motion.
had
to
her
put.
hand up for a while. It's fine, don't worry.
I've just been asked, so I need to vote. All those in favour to put the motion?
no, I think
Motion says.
the council want to have a
Okay,
conversation.
yeah, I understand that. I've been asked for a motion to be put. All those in favour to put the motion?
Yeah.
Councillor Hopkins and Councillor Beer all against. Oh, sorry, and Councillor Follick all against. Stewart, Summers, Higgins, Johnson, Davis, Williamson. We continue to vote.
No, it's just how you have to put the motion, that we can talk.
Councillor Davis, would you like to talk for them? Sorry, you're talking for
I
the
think they're
recommendation.
gonna let it go for it.
Look, this $1 million grant opportunity is a great opportunity for Bombala and for the whole community from Queanbeyan through to Bombala to have a commencement of the rail trail. It'll allow us to actually define our methodology. And my experience on working on the Tumbarumba to Rosewood rail trail is that if they'd had that opportunity, it probably would have been far more efficient than what it was. So this is a fantastic opportunity. I'd like to actually say to SnowyMonaro Rail and the Friends of Bombala Rail, Friends of Bombala Rail, the Monaro Rail Trail Group have reached out to you and have given you the opportunity to come and speak and work with them. Please take it up. It is so important that we all work together. But at the end of the day, the project is going to bring the greatest number of visitors to Bombala is the rail trail. If we look at Tumbarumba to Rosewood, they have more than 15,000 visitors a year. North Coast have had 70,000 visitors or 17,000 visitors a month, and they're on the doorstep of the Gold Coast. We're on the doorstep of Canberra. This is just a no-brainer project. And seriously, Bombala needs urgent support. It cannot wait till 2032 or thereafter for the possibility of a tourist train coming to Bombala. And we don't know what that's actually going to bring. We know with slow travel that the visitor community are going to stay in town and use all the facilities, eat, drink, and want to do other things. So you're bringing a visitor population who will want other entertainment. I have seen no plan from the SnowyMonaro Rail Group or the Bombala Rail Group. And it's really, really important that we actually work with what we actually know. Council has actually invested in the feasibility study. We know that it has real merit. We have seen it gain real merit in other communities that are very much like us. And we need to actually move on this today. We need to stop stuffing around and just make a decision so that we can then go to the next part of applying for a bigger grant. And we have already been given the opportunity of where to go to for that grant application. And we've actually fit that criteria very, very nicely. And the Minister for the member for Eden-Monaro, Christy McBain, has been assisting us with that. So it's really, really important that we actually move forward. It's really important that we actually look at the economy of the greatest number of communities in our region. Other than the fact that we're looking to the communities in the west, we're going to be looking at all the communities from north to south. And that is so important. So I really, really implore everybody to just vote for the motion and let's move forward.
Just one clarification, if I may, the opportunity for the next grant application has been identified.
One of the speakers spoke about it in the course of $400 million grant fund that we potentially applied for.
And is it co-funded or not?
No.
Not.
So, yeah, I'm not
What an
familiar with
injection.
the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I make this, there's been a lot of talk about involving the other groups. Would the mover and seconder be interested in amending Part E to write to the 3 community groups who provided letters for this report, formally informing of council's decision and inviting them to a meeting of the working group?
Inviting to engage.
Yeah, no, good idea. Yeah.
I would be happy with inviting them to engage.
Yeah,
Because I think it needs to be broader and longer and.
I'm happy for you to fiddle with the words, but that's what I've suggested.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, to the Chief Executive,
Because
I fail to see the relevance of inviting them when we've previously in a different point said we're going to remove the rails. So the people who want to put trains on, if there ain't no rails, they can't come to the meeting, are they, right? So that's the rub, right? If we want to tap into their goodwill and see if we can find a joint solution that gives us a bigger trail, then we've got to take that point out of the earlier thing.
That said, we do have a commitment to put rail back if it's required from an earlier resolution.
that's the Hannah, I understand.
Why did we have to put in that we'd sell it?
Yeah,
if we were-
To allow the amendment. Yeah. If I may respond as the mover of the motion
you may.
to that proposal, I think if there is support for this resolution today, the other 2 parties will at least be clear of our intent to apply for the $1 million grant. And there's nothing like a bucket of money to incentivize people to come to the table and engage. And I think there's room for that engagement. And I think there's room for us to make a better application for them at the table. And if they don't want to come to the table, well, this is the point of the project at which they must, if they want to be.
Point of clarification, is this councillor Summers' right of reply?
I know, she's
she's
free.
So I am not.
Sorry, point of clarification,
Sorry,
please.
Councillor Summers. The CEO has asked the mover if she would like to amend the recommendation.
I'll
Councillor
give my
Summers
rationale
is,
for that.
yes, it's just clarifying why she would choose to amend it, so she can do that, and then we'll go back.
A point of clarification, I understood that this was at this meeting because the grant application had to go in before the next meeting.
No, that's in, it has to be, the grant has to be applied, oh, sorry, should I answer that? The grant has to be applied by the 30th of November. It doesn't physically have to be approved at this council meeting. It can move over to the next council meeting. And it's a shorter time to apply for the grant.
So I would accept the suggestion of the CEO with the change of the words, inviting them to engage with the working group.
And which working group are you referring to?
Which working group are we referring to, Mr. CEO?
There are regular meetings between
There
the
is,
economic
yes.
development team on council direction. There is regular meetings between our economic development team and with the MRT.
Can I clarify something? in the lease agreement that we are applying for, how many kilometres are we actually applying for this grant?
Yes, I agree that that's not clear in the recommendation or the motion as it currently stands. But the intent is to only to apply for the constructed trail.
Right.
So at this stage, it would only be the 3.5 kilometres.
Right, so the
Anything
lease, yeah,
that we're not using would be incurring additional costs that are not accounted for in the budgeting for this proposal.
correct, and that can take up to 12 months to get this current lease.
Yes, but we have a letter, a promise of a letter to allow us to proceed in the meantime.
Oh, sorry, a letter,
A
so,
letter allowing us to, we have to have owner's consent to submit the grant.
oh, yes, yes, not to rip up the tracks until
Not to rip up the
sorry,
tracks,
yes,
yes.
just wanted to
Yes,
clarify that
sorry,
one.
yeah. So we can start the planning in order to get that sort of business, yeah.
See if the seconder agrees.
Seconder Johnson, Councillor Johnson, would you agree to that amendment change?
To engage with the working group.
Yeah, that's correct. I think we had someone speak for, do we have someone speaking against, or are we a right of reply, we're to reply?
I would like a right of reply.
Go for it.
Did you want to take part? No.
Yes, thank you. I've listened with interest to the discussion, and I'll be very frank and tell you that I would much rather perch on the seat of a railway car than on one of those skinny bikes. Definitely not for me. I would love to have a train to ride on, but I'm also a pragmatist and a realist. We have $1 million in flashing lights there for us to assist Bombala now, and we can't risk it by squabbling around the edges on what might or might not be. I think the compromise that is on the table is a good one. We can retain the steel. We can make lots of assessments on how we might move forward in the future, both for the railway people and the bike people. And it will be a good exemplar of cost analysis and economic benefits. Now, there's been a query on what will 3.5 bring us. Well, it's not so much about what 3.5 kilometres will bring us. There's $1 million to go into the community. The station precinct itself will be done up, and that will be of benefit as a tourist attraction. People will be engaged locally to do that. So it's not, it's
Where's that come from? There's nothing in the paper about doing up the station precinct.
That's bringing new material. It's a right of reply.
Yes, please don't interrupt. You do it all the time.
Sorry, just
Making stuff up. The mover's got the last say.
Yes, I have the last say. So to the railway people who are promoting the trains, I say this is a modest incursion on your long-term plans, but I don't think it's a killer blow. And I think if you come to the table with goodwill, it's been offered to you by both the council and the others, that we can work something together. But we must think of the broader community. We must think of Bombala in particular. It's suffered a lot of economic blows. And I think this is a modest start to something that could be very good for its future. And we've got 3 projects of 2 DAs and this today, which I think will give the people of Bombala a bit of a lift in their step. And I highly recommend the recommendation to council and hope that it is passed. Thank you.
All those in favour of the current recommendation that is on the board? Councillor Stewart, Summers, Higgins, Johnson, Davis, Beer, Hannah, sorry, and all those against? Hopkins, Williamson, and Follick. Thank you. Motion has been passed. So that's on the board.
All right.
Moving on to 9.4.2 amendments to the policy. Sorry, guys. Amendments to the policy sponsorship of council's projects events. Do I have a move up for this recommendation?
No,
A recommendation.
Somebody was going to move the.
Councillor Hopkins. Do I have a seconder?
I'll move.
What are we moving?
I'm in second.
Second, Councillor Beer. Councillor Hopkins, would you like to talk for the recommendation?
No, I feel that the explanation is self-explanatory. It's bringing the policy in line with reality, and nothing more needs to be said.
Thank you. Anyone like to talk against?
Actually, I'd like to, move an amendment, if I could.
Okay, if you'd like to amend the motion or have an amendment, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
For amendment.
So as I mentioned to councillors in the pre-meeting, I've carefully read the